we wanted to build this specific community to help bridge the gap for artists, composers, songwriters, you name it, who are looking to create a sustainable, just successful career path in this side of the industry, in which we call sync licensing. So, we're really proud of the space that we've curated. We're very peer led. We like to bring in a multitude of voices to help weigh in, even amidst the experience, that we've had. We're just like you all. We're learning every day. I feel like every control camp, we learn as much as our community does. And yeah, we're just here to serve and just continue to add value to you all. So we're super excited to have everyone here. Just so you know, we do this particular room every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We like to have real conversations with our special guests, those who would just have different experiences within the industry and sync licensing. And I'll introduce a little bit of our guests here in a minute. But this is just a time where we get to do a Q&A. We'll have a talk about the topic at hand, and then we'll kick it over in the second half of the hour, where we'll bring the audience up to ask your questions specifically that you may have for some of our panelists and guests. So stick around to the end, because that's when you get a chance to speak and talk after hearing us talk. So yeah, so stick around. We're gonna have some fun with that. We have a lot of resources as well over at controlcamp.com, and Control Camp is spelled CTRL camp.com, just like at the top with the little greenhouse. And if you swing over to our Sync 101 page, there you'll find a lot of resources, PDF downloads. You also find a link to our Patreon, where we have our past rooms that we've done and all the interviews and topics that we've discussed relating to sync licensing, all of the guests that we've had. You'll be able to revisit those conversations, and there's just a lot of information there. If you're really, really serious about, making this space your home, we try to make it a easy entry point for you. So go ahead, swing over to controlcamp.com, and yeah, you'll find those resources. And with that said, welcome to the camp. Today's session is on advertising and music for ads. We're taking a deep dive into writing music for ads in that space. And so we have a great panel with us. And I'm going to briefly give a quick intro. We got Mike Ladman with Draga 5 here. Jason Gleed, he's a regular with Music Box. Callie J is a sync artist and an artist in her own right. MunnyCat, they're also here with us. Oscar, Mazzola, and we're just going to have a really, really just great time with talking and understanding a little bit more about their side of the industry and how they write and place and pitch music, specifically for ads. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Eric, and we're going to get this thing started.
Awesome. This is great. So yeah, we're excited. This is going to be really cool. We've got a nice mix of executives, artists, composers, all who are involved in sync licensing and ads, particularly because we cover sync every week in some form or fashion, but this is the first time that we've really set the whole room to focus just on ads from the writing perspective, from the pitching perspective, as a business perspective. So I'm really excited to get into this. Before we do any intros, Steph, anything we left out or something you want to set up?
No, I think maybe just one thing, which is I think I'm extra excited because the folks on this panel tonight that we chose are, particularly skilled in what I call the changing landscape of advertising, which is now content built around brands, for brands, about brands, with brands. Some of them have been in the business long enough to know the change from traditional commercials as we know them, which still exist, but really are innovators in the new space of content for brands. So I'm super excited to get into that conversation as well, because I think that's the future. So let's get into it. No more of us, more of them.
All right, so let's start from my left with MunnyCat, which is a duo pop hip hop group. I'm gonna let you guys describe yourself. We met at Durango, and I don't know if are you both on or is somebody representing Kate and Khaled or
Hi. We're
hey
so
We're
happy
both
to be
here.
here. We're
hey you're
both
both here.
here. We're
What's
Cool,
both
up,
cool,
man?
here.
cool.
What's
How's
up,
it
Kyle? We
going?
got all kinds of friends in here.
So good to see you. All right, so tell everyone we know you're wonderful. Tell everyone a little about yourself. Yeah, give them the brief rundown.
Sweet. Well, we're MunnyCat. We're a pop duo or a band. We like to almost think of ourselves as. We've just had a lot of luck in this world. We both had independent careers earlier as just we made music our whole lives, and then we met and we fell in love. And we didn't want to really mess with each other's music because we were kind of both fans of each other's music. So for a long time, we kept it real separate. Like I had a band and she had a pop thing, and we would just like mutually admire each other, but like we didn't really want to get involved in each other's stuff because we, like I said, we were fans. So we kind of came up with this idea to make a new project that we could do together. And we went back to what originally got us pumped about music. So for me, it was like golden age hip hop and like a big beat, like, you know, like Prodigy and like all that kind of stuff back in the day. And for her,
I just always wanted to be a Spice Girl when I grew up.
yeah.
So anything that brought me a little bit closer to that was
Didn't
fun.
we all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we started making music together and we realized, oh my God, this is so fun.
Yeah, it was really fun
you
because we
know?
could share one more thing of our lives. Because she was a dope producer on her own, and I had a rock band, and I produced my own stuff. And every time we'd kind of like flirt with working on each other's stuff, everyone responded really well. Like we'd take it to conferences and stuff like that, and they'd be like, "Yeah, that was cool, but like, what's that song you guys did together? Go back to that one." And so it just seemed like the universe was trying to make us work together. And so we invented like a new project, so we didn't have any of those old expectations of our other work, and it just
And also, I feel like a lot of our older music when we were working separately, it was more diary writing, or it was like,
yeah.
I don't know, we fell in love and we were real happy, and so
Yeah.
we were like, well, what are we writing about? But we moved out to California, there's palm trees everywhere. It's just, it sounded like a really fun challenge to return to what made us fall in love with music in the first place, A, and B, to really try and reflect out where we are now, as opposed to where
I would
we
even go so
were,
far as to say, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like I feel like it's, when you're younger, you just write, like she was saying, like that diary writing, like you're like, I feel this today and my life is sad, or what, you write all that kind of stuff. But then we said it was almost harder to write upbeat songs that weren't sad, or
Well,
weren't that. And I think that kind of led us into that world.
let me jump in because I love how that's organically going towards how you led towards sync, and I want to hold on that because I want to come back and really dive into ad writing specifically in that upbeat stuff. So let's put a pause on that and let's introduce some of the other ones, and then we're going to come back and I want to really dive into that sync writing. All right, so let's go continue in order. Let's go to Mike Ladman from Georgia 5. How you doing, Mike?
Doing good.
Good to see you. Always good to see you here. Although I think this might be this might be the first time you're on stage, or did you do a Q&A with us before?
No, I think this is the first one. Maybe in like early days, like 6 months ago, Clubhouse, I popped up every now and then. But this is like, I think, the more first official one.
Cool. It's we're so glad to have you here. All right, let people know who you are.
Sure. Hey, everybody. I'm Mike Ladman. I'm a music supervisor, the head of music at an ad agency in New York called Droga 5. A bit more of a unique creative agency compared to a lot of the other ones, and how we do what we do. And our clients are Hennesy, Facebook, New York Times, Chase, Allstate, Lululemon, who's keeping me busy right now besides all them, Reform, some Coors lines of product, a bunch more as well. So a lot of major brands. And yeah, everything from music licensing, original music, partnerships, everything in between. And we're unique in that we usually don't want our things to sound like ads. So we'll get into that, I'm sure, much more later. But Yeah, it's fun, and thanks for having me on.
I'm glad you said that, and I really want to get into that, so I'm going to put a pencil on that. But we want to congratulate you on Guild Music Supervision. You won this weekend Best Music Supervision in Advertising for Original Music, and we're going to come back and get the whole story. But man, congratulations! We're really proud of you.
Yeah, thank you. We can go back to that, but I feel like everyone says, "Oh, I was so surprised," but I really was. I thought the other categories where I'd win if I had a shot, and Apple has literally won every year, both categories since the awards have started, which is I think 10, 11 years. So when Facebook or New York Times didn't win, I was like, everyone's a pick Kerouac, and was legitimately, very honored and surprised, and thankful that Hennesy did the trick. So thank you.
Very, very cool. Very, very cool. All right, and then we have Oscar. Steph, do you want to introduce Oscar?
I mean, there is no proper introduction to this man, myth, and legend. But Oscar is a very dear friend and an amazing. Well, Oscar, why don't you introduce you before I mess up everything? Because he's kind of good at everything. But
well, you can't really mess up with that kind of intro. The legend that I am is I've been a music publisher for 20 plus years. I was at EMI for 12 of those. Prior to that was actually in film business and TV production, and DJ'd for years. And this is like a happy marriage between two. Didn't even know it was a job. Never read liner notes, but I was a music obsessed. And as a DJ, I would recognize songs by, it's that 12-inch with the flower and the yellow streak on the left corner. I know what that is. So I was really casual about it. But when I finally got into publishing and realizing all the ins and outs of what that was, it was just a match made in heaven. And I love what I do. And I get to interact with people like Steph and Mike. And it's really great to be on this panel with everybody here. And ultimately, I represent composers and catalogs, and I, like everybody else, am trying to help deliver the best possible music for whatever's needed out there. And the advertising world is a huge one, and not the first one that I was really focused on. So I, like somebody else said, I'm always learning. I feel like I just got out of college every day, and just happy to be here.
So happy to have you, Oscar. Welcome. Okay, Callie, we got Callie up next. This is her first official room in Clubhouse, as I think it is Oscar's too. Callie, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Am I doing this right? Okay. Can you hear me?
You're perfect.
Awesome.
It's cool. Tell everybody who you are.
Well, first off, I just want to say, thank you for having me up here. I'm honored to be among all these legends up here on this panel, so thank you. But yeah, my name is Callie J. I'm an artist and writer for sync music, and I guess it's just a quick bio. I had been gigging for a living in Atlanta for about 7 years, was doing, 150 cover gigs a year and everything, and kind of working that circuit. And then I got connected with a producer in Atlanta, and he started having me write for local artists and everything, which was cool. But I guess I wasn't quite satisfied with what was happening with the songs, because even though the artists were super talented, they would release the music, and then I just felt like it wasn't really going anywhere. And then it just so happened that at that time I was a senior in college, and through a music business program, I got an internship at a sync music licensing library, which kind of opened me up to that world. So when I graduated, I decided that's what I wanted to pursue for full time and start pitching my music that I'd written for other artists and stuff. And then I really kind of dove deep. And when I first got into sync, I was more focused on the film and TV side, wrote a lot more kind of R&B and pop kind of stuff. But then I realized that I could maybe be a little more efficient at making a living if I focused towards ads. So I kind of pivoted maybe about 2 years ago, and have been, full time just focusing on writing music for ads. And my music is more of a laid back, swagger, sassy talk kind of vibe. Still in the pop lane, but yeah, I've just been writing for ads and film and TV for the past 3 years, and yeah, I love it.
And Callie is Callie. I've for the years that I've known her, she's been doing kind of what we see Daraj doing now, whereas like every other day you see an Instagram post of, oh, I got my thing on this TV show, oh, I got my thing on this ad, oh, I got like just placement after placement after placement. So I'm really glad to have you here to shed some insight on all of that. Really, really happy to see you here.
Thank you.
All right. Last but not least, we got he's a regular here, Jason Gleed, composer with Music Box. But Jason, just for those who don't know, tell them about yourself.
Hey, thanks for having me. I think this is my first time officially on a panel. I haven't had stage fright in a while, so thank you for that. Before I get into me, I just want to be a fan of someone else on our panel, Mr. Ladman. I haven't been stopped in my tracks by ad music in a while, but then that Grace Jones Facebook commercial came on, and it's phenomenal. So great work. The stuff's incredible. It's really, really phenomenal. So I just wanted to say that. So I am Jason Gleed. I am a composer and a producer with Music Box. I've been I've been a musician my entire life. I've played in bands. I've been a singer. I've been a songwriter. But I got my professional start early back in 1999 when I was 24, and you can do the math. And got started in ads. And this has been an interesting exercise. So I haven't really looked back over my career in a while, but I've probably landed well over 200 commercial spots in my career, and for every major brand: McDonald's, Altel, Chevy, Ford. I've done a lot of work with celebrities in advertising. Did a spot with Kelly Clarkson for Ford. Did something with Rev Run for Chevy. And it's just been a wild ride. So I'm excited to share some of that with you.
That is so awesome. What a great panel. I'm so excited about just diving into this. So so many questions we can start, and I think all of us will kind of, Daraj, Stefan, and I will kind of pass the microphone back and forth just to get into this. But let's start. Since we talked about the awards, and you did give some background on that, Mike, but I don't know what you're allowed to talk about. Are you able to talk any more about the Hennesy placement? I would love to know how that came about, because the music it has that 90s feel to it, but it's also kind of like a score. And so like, there's got to be a whole story behind pulling that together. And can you share any of that?
Yeah, totally. I remember when I was first interviewing at Droga just about 5 years ago. That was right on the heels of Droga releasing a Hennessy spot called The Picards, which, if you haven't seen, is absolutely stunning. And they had this sort of heritage of doing these incredible cinematic films. They did one with Nas, and then they switched and just did these. Every 2 years, they put out this really stunning brand film. And so they did that one, and then I guess it's about 2 years ago now, 3 actually, we had done this other one for Major Taylor, this cyclist, which was incredible, with Derek C. in France directing. And on that, I mean, it ended up being Guy Phil Kay who scored it, but we had everyone from Ben Frost, Mike Patton, just so many people demo on that. And so on this one, every year it takes 2 years to make these, because the bar is set so high, and each time it's like, how are my creatives going to top it? And so this one was the first one that was less of a physical feat. So it was the mind, and how do we tell that story, and how do we tell that story of Maurice Ashley that's true to the time and his incredible story and impact. And so just seeing the scripts, it was quite tough to get my head wrapped around it, and we weren't sure how it was going to work. Is it going to be one piece of music that runs throughout the whole thing, which is traditionally how all the other Hennessy work had been done? And once we got in there, we realized there's so many different chapters and fun sonic moments we could put in there to make it feel of that time and place of the early 90s in Union Square, even though we shot it in Mexico. Actually, it's cheaper to shoot it in Mexico than actually in Union Square, New York. But so we knew we needed hip hop, and we started, kind of filling in some holes with some placement music to see what tempos and everything feels right. Um, and we knew we needed a partner who could really just go all in with us on this. And so Q Department is kind of our go-to music house for the difficult projects. And so that's what we called. They'd done a lot of other Hennessy work, and so they were familiar with us and our creatives. And it was a lot of working sessions. But for the '90s part of it, for the hip hop and the opening, um, you know, we got real specific with them about which gear we wanted them to use, making sure they had all the old, early, authentic '90s. It couldn't be in a box. It couldn't be a plug-in. It had to be the real deal thing. We had them record. There's that horn opening. We had them record horns, chop it up, like basically record, the old funk and soul and sample it like a '90s producer would do. They did all the sound design. We had them, do things that sounded very much like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. And it was a lot of back and forths and working sessions to have it go from hip hop to a drum to kind of a Godzilla theme to back to hip hop to this big orchestral thing piece. I'm blanking on which pieces they were. We actually created this. We worked on this between I think December and February pre-COVID, and they delayed the ship until they were going to do it for All Star, and then said no, we'll do it in the playoffs, and then everything happened. So it's actually been a minute. They waited until I think what did we air? I think October, November. So we actually sat on it for quite a while. But it was it was a lot of back and forths and really being particular over every drum sound, every transition, all of those things. And we're trying to make it sure it's as authentic as possible. We were gonna get some major hip hop producers on it, so we actually had a call with Rizzo, which was everything you'd want it to be. And he had actually played chess against Maurice Ashley, the hero of the film, and got chopped up as he said it. And it was just like, yeah, it was just a super fun call. It didn't end up going that way for some other reasons. We were talking to Just Blaze for a second, but it ended up being as fun as that was for starfuckery and just fanboy reasons. It really needed to be one brain, one composer, or partner to make it feel as cohesive as it did. So that was kind of a long story. I don't know if that answered all the questions. If you haven't seen the spot, it might sound totally gnarly, but
That
yeah,
was
it was a beast. It was 2 months with working sessions almost every week.
wow. There's so many amazing moments, and I think I would kill for the RZA Maurice Ashley chess competition, or to be on the phone with Just Blaze, like all my favorite people. And so like just the energy that goes into something like that was really, really cool. For anyone in the audience who hasn't seen it, you can Google Maurice Ashley and the Black Bear School. It's on YouTube. It's a 2-minute spot. You hear all the music. It's labeled Hennesy Presents. It's actually on Hennessy's YouTube page, Hennesy US. So you can find it that way. Maurice Ashley and the Black Bear School. You can check that out. How are you feeling, Steph?
I'm good.
Any questions your way?
You know what? Yes, I'll take the next one. I want to talk to Callie a bit because I hadn't known you before, we were putting this room together today, and I'm always obsessed with women in sync. So anybody who has come to be a regular in our room knows that we try to create opportunities for women and BIPOC creators in sync in particular. And in the ad space, it's really desperate. It's super bad in film and TV and extra bad in the ad space. So I love that you're a woman and so successful. I'd love to hear more about what your day to day is like in the sync world. Anything you can kind of share, knowing that most of the people in this room are just like you, except maybe at all different levels, wanting to get into it. Some are more on their way than others. Some are just starting out. But, what's your day to day like in the sync world for advertising?
Yeah. So, day to day, that has changed a bit, obviously, as I've gotten a little more involved in sync and as I've, transitioned into doing it full time. Like for those people that are just getting started in sync, back when I was getting started and I was focused more towards film and TV, like I couldn't even track my vocals or anything back then. So I would go to a friend's house and toss him $50 to track my vocals, and it was very nice of him to do that. But we did that for about a year, until I had I got the push that I needed to learn how to track my own vocals, and that really was kind of life changing in and of itself, because that obviously sped up my creative process and everything in terms of just output and turnaround for songs and briefs and everything. So now my day to day is, I have my own studio set up at home. Producers will send me basically fully produced out tracks, almost like an instrumental you'd hear off the radio or something. And then I sit at home and I top line. And for those people that don't know what top line means, that means I just write the lyrics and melody. I'll track my vocals, I'll tune them, align them, but I really don't do any vocal production. I'll send the raw stems off to my producers and they'll produce them out basically however they like. And then I also handle most of the admin responsibilities in terms of pitching my songs. So I kind of bounce back and forth during the day, as soups or agencies are sending me briefs. I'll pause writing something and I'll go respond to a brief and send them some songs that might fit. And I kind of handle the admin in that regard, too. But yeah, I just kind of bounce back and forth between creating and pitching, and I try to average about 75 to 100 songs a year, like fully produced and pitched. And yeah, that's just kind of my day to day.
I love that you said that you told us your story of transitioning from, working with someone else to record your vocals to, doing that yourself. How critical do you think that was a turn in your career?
That was massive, and I'm a person who is very technologically challenged, so I was terrified, and I had pushed that off for so long. But it really is like life changing, honestly, not to be dramatic, but like for those of y'all who don't know how to track your vocals, if I can do it, literally anyone can. I'm not joking. um, but it's amazing how fast it can speed up your creative process. If you have 24-hour turnarounds for a custom piece or something, you can just sit at home and track your vocals, and it's amazing. And also just finding the right collaborations with producers that do well with producing your vocals and that sort of thing. But yeah, learning how to track your vocals was definitely critical for me, at least.
I love that you did that, and we don't know each other, but I'm super proud of you. I'm really glad that you did it. It's a daunting thing to do, and it's something that especially women creators have a hard time getting into. So it's a good inspiration to hear that you did that, and that it made that kind of an impact for you. You mentioned something really critical, which are turnaround times. For those of you who haven't worked in advertising or brand work yet, advertising and brand work can work one of two ways. Similar to how Mike said, it could go on for many months, or weeks, or it could be within 24 hours. And that's a super common thing as well. And the initial pitches for those things that might go on for many months usually tend to happen really fast. You get a couple a day, maybe 2 days if you're lucky. And then they might, if you are awarded the job, go on for a long time. I want to direct this towards Jason on the creative side first. And then I also want to talk about this, open it up to Oscar and Mike. In terms of turnaround times, Jason, how critical is it to, in sync, we talk about this all the time, the difference between being an artist, because you were an artist, a rock kind of guy first, then, being in ads. What was the major shift for you going from being a musician or an artist writing for other musicians or other writers and things like that and then going into advertising with timelines and the difference?
Well, I as an artist, for sure, I could, I like to be free with my artist work. I don't want to have to think about deadlines. There are no deadlines. The deadlines you put on yourself. And then obviously shifting into client work, and it's a tough thing for some artists to do, is changing your thinking to you're creating to serve a story. You're creating to serve a client, and you're trying to, it's essential that you be able to deliver on time. It's one of the biggest things I've noticed, like with certain artists, that time management is so essential. And it can be really difficult. Sometimes I still struggle with it sometimes. But as far as building trust with clients, and whether your client is direct to an agency, whether it's a film director, it doesn't matter who it is. Um, Whether it's someone paying you $10,000, $100,000, or $10, you need to deliver things on time. Because if you're not delivering things on time, what you're not seeing is everything you're holding. You're holding up a whole machine. It's not just you. It's an entire. It's the editing suite. It's all the assistants. It's everybody is getting held up. So that's first and foremost. Like, I was happy to get some early experience behind the scenes in on film sets and on ad production shoots, to see how efficient these machines need to run. And there's obviously like room for a bit of give and take, and things come up naturally. But for the most part, on the music end, if you get a deadline, you make that deadline. You do whatever you need to do to make that deadline. And if something comes up, communicate with your client. But that is it's number one for me. You're going to lose a lot of work if you deliver things even an hour late. If I send you something acting as executive producer, and you send me something even an hour late, I'm going to remember that and think twice about calling you on a tight deadline. And a lot of deadlines are tight. We Steph and I have done spots lately where we had less than a day to get something together.
Eric
And
did one of them.
yeah,
We
Eric
had
did one of
12
them.
hours.
Yeah. Yeah. So in case it wasn't clear, time management is very, very important.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I want to redirect that to Oscar and Mike. I'll do Oscar first. When you were pitching, your catalog for guys like Mike, how does time factor in when you have such a massive? For those who don't know Wise Music, you guys, what do you have, like 45 different publishing companies within one? They have an immense, very dense catalog of thousands and thousands of songs. How do you, in short amounts of time, decide or decipher what is right, for guys like Mike, or, guys or gals who are creating these spots?
I guess it all depends on what the brief is and what's needed. And as far as understanding or knowing your catalog, you have to really put in a lot of time to know it, so that you can, reference things quickly and turn around a pitch quickly, to someone like Mike and other agencies. Um, it's like you got to get your music calculator out and add in all the variables from the music brief, and then go into whatever you have in your resources, and hopefully you can turn something around quickly, and hopefully you're savvy enough about organizing your own catalog. This would go for anybody, independent, or major, or just a solo artist. Just cataloging your own music in such a way that um, you either have themed playlists that fit a kind of variety of universal emotions that consistently pop up in the sync worlds, and you can always reference those and add to them as time goes on. But mastery of a catalog that has over 500,000 copyrights, it only comes with time, and your ability to search. I've Full transparency, I've failed many times on delivering the end of day kind of requests that you get, more from a place of that there's so many people asking for stuff at the end of the day. And I don't think anybody here is waiting for something to do, so it's always maddening, because you don't want to disappoint whoever it is that you're working with. So Jason, when you were saying, you know deliver on time, because sometimes that can reflect negatively on you. I think that's something that weighs heavy on my mind a lot, and I try to do my best to get things out there. I think it can be even more challenging when, say, you're given a budget up front. So not only are pitching creatively and trying to find the right, lyric and vibe and whatever else that they requested, but also try and find material that fits within their budget. And as a publisher that represents a lot of artists or estates or catalogs, there's a lot of pre-clearing that goes into that. So there's less flexibility, and you really have to make sure that you're aligned internally on your side before you even go out, and that could kill your ability to make a pitch in time. So I guess do all the work that you possibly can in organizing your own stuff. I didn't want to get into metadata and tagging right now because it's also really important, but it takes time, and then your mastery of the catalog, eventually you'll be able to work a lot faster, but it's not easy.
Can I jump in just quick? Oscar, as Music Box has got a growing catalog, and I've been doing a lot of the data entry and searching and that sort of thing. I feel for you on the music search part, but what I wanted to say is, even as a composer, and I know a lot of freelance composers, what I want to highlight, we're now getting a lot of requests for music searches. And it seems to be taken for granted sometimes by the industry that these searches take a lot of time and thought. And so it's very difficult to put something together we want to be thoughtful. And I feel you as far as feeling like bad about not delivering on time, but you don't want to just toss people a bunch of random stuff that isn't well thought out. So I just wanted to
Exactly.
throw that out there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a kiss of death as well, right? Um, and, and I know if anyone's dealing with like frontline pressures at a label, they're trying to often fit a square peg into a round hole, because they have marketing pressures coming from executives internally saying, get a sync for this, reach out to all your people and make it happen. And meanwhile, this music has to serve the project. And if that isn't understood with everybody involved, and you are being pressured, I've had some really uncomfortable political situations where I've had to let people know, hey, I'm sending this over, or call them on the side and literally say, man, I'm sending this over, but I'm being pressured to do this. So just know this isn't coming from my actual ears, because you don't want your reputation to get burned. But and then there's also working with composers who are doing original stuff. It's at the publishing company that I work at, there's a lot of great composers there. Many of them understand the pressures of sync and the time restraints, but then there's a lot of them that just want to be involved, but they happen to be very good at something else, and they don't realize that they have to shift how they work in order to really make their skill set fit for the advertising world, and it doesn't always work.
Yeah, thanks, Oscar. I actually want to get in that in a little bit, but I wanted to. That's amazing information, and I'm gonna beg you on the side to come back. We're going to do a button up your business night where we're going to talk about metadata and all the nerd stuff, because what you're talking about is really critical to everything we do. Wanted to quickly direct this question to Mike, and then I'm going to pass it over to Daraj. Mike, how important is time management, in your job on all sides?
It's huge. Yeah, Hennessy is an anomaly in that 2 months and years of prep and storyboards. Spots can hit your desk on Friday. Hey, we're shooting. And it could be 2 weeks, or you need music in a day. So time management is huge. So I always, on my end, try to tell producers and everyone, I give cushion the timeline, because I know there are so many times, as much as I can. So I might tell people I need tracks by Wednesday at noon, knowing I really need them at the end of the day, just because there are stragglers. And for me, for music supervision, a lot of that is done in the prep. It's like a sport. Most of the work is done before you're on the court, before the game. And so when it comes to, when you're asking about doing a catalog, I don't have every song that's ever been written is sort of my catalog. So I believe that the job of the music supervisor is to make sure that the best spot goes on air, regardless of where that comes from, whether it's me or the account guy, and to make sure it does that safely, but to also try and basically catalog every great song that's ever been written. So it's kind of getting in your reps. It was someone sent me the Questlove thing about, you know, how he listens to music, and not comparing myself to Questlove, but I think we have similar views and routines about music consumption. I have an email for every label publisher, like an email blast does not get sent to my normal email. I just guide everyone to this other email. I open that email, you know, first thing in the morning. I download things that seem like it's something I could use and curated playlists. And then I load it into iTunes, and then I just try to listen to as much music I can every day. When I hear a good song, I have my buckets of playlists, and I'm just filing good songs all day. Uh, I can get deeper into what a good song is, but when that helps me, when a creative or someone needs something in an hour, as you guys know, those moments, there's a pretty good chance I have a playlist or know of a bucket or a rabbit hole of how to provide songs for whatever that need might be to get them through that meeting, and then can do outreach and do it further. But yeah, ads move quick. Ads are like kind of cranking out the singles, and films can be a bit more like, you know, a couple years, more like making an album. TV sort of splits the difference. But yeah, ads move quick, so you got to be prepped and ready to go. Split stems, as you guys know, clean and clear.
I love that. No, and I love the perspective that you shared too about the, I guess, the nature of creating music for this space. I wanted to kind of circle back a little bit to something that Callie mentioned about the volume of music, but even specifically, I wanted to, and this is a question directed to MunnyCat as well as Callie. She can weigh in on this. And when it comes to writing specifically for ads, what have you noticed is, I guess, different as opposed to writing for either other styles or even other spaces within sync, like for TV and film? Have you seen anything uniquely different about writing for ads specifically? And also, I have to say a quick apology to MoneyCat. I mispronounced your name early on, and I hate when people do that to me. And so, sincerely apologize. I think Siri got in here and auto corrected it when it came out. So, but anyway, on a serious note, I wanted to see. Um, yeah, man. Like, I wanted to know, when it comes to writing for ads specifically, what have you noticed? What does your approach look like?
Well, we are sort of in an interesting boat because
Sorry, you're a little low on my end. I'm not sure if that's the same for everybody else.
hold on 1 second. Should we disconnect?
Callie, you take this. We'll disconnect from our Bluetooth.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, while we're waiting for them to reconnect, yeah, for me, I've definitely noticed there's a big difference in terms of writing for film and TV versus advertising, and I would say that, at least in my experience, all songs written for ads can cross over into the film and TV space, but not all songs written in the film and TV space can cross over into the ad space. And I think, looking at them separately, I think thematically and lyrically, film and TV is more open, because you could argue that any song could essentially be placed in film and TV, whether it's background music in a car or, whatever. There's so much content being produced that there is potentially an opportunity for any song. But on the ad side, I think it's definitely a little narrower. There are a couple key themes, lyrical concepts that tend to do really good for ads, like, overcoming obstacles, champion winning, swagger, sass, confidence, like home, togetherness, like a platonic kind of togetherness, friendship, lifting each other up kind of thing. Those kind of vibes seem to work really well for ads. And I would even say tempo wise, like film and TV is kind of all over the place, a lot more open. I think for ads, although it is open, I think there is a general trend, at least right now, for kind of mid to up tempo. So those are definitely things. And then, there's genre breakdowns. I think, film and TV is obviously open because there's a ton of different shows. And then ads, at least in my experience, has been a little bit more in the pop, hip hop, but not too hip hop, more of like, I'm not sure how to describe that genre. But yeah, the ad space I think is a little bit narrower in terms of what works for ads, whereas it's a little more open for film and TV.
I love that. And I think without you even realizing it, you're echoing a lot of what, we share here in Control Camp in regards to, familiar songwriting themes that come up, when briefs come through. And so I appreciate your response on that. MoneyCat, I don't know if you're at a better place now. You just want to chime in
We
as well?
are. What do you think? Can you hear us
Awesome.
better now?
Can you hear us better?
You sound great.
Oh,
Beautiful.
thanks. Okay, cool. Go ahead, Colin. You start.
Oh yeah. Well, like Kate was saying, we're kind of in a different boat in one way of looking at it, because we kind of think of ourselves as like a band who's just had a lot of luck in sync. So like we don't necessarily keep it in mind the same, but our stuff just kind of lends itself well. Like we've had like 300 placements, but we also want this stuff to be able to, we want to be able to go out and play it at a show. Now that doesn't mean that all songs that go in commercials couldn't be played by, like a band that didn't have an audience and da da da. But that's just kind of where we're at. That's kind of our background. You know what I mean?
So we've never tried to make a song for anything, or for it. It happens to lend itself really well, and it's so, once you start having luck with it, we're gonna ride it till you start learning tricks. We'll ride it till the wheels fall off.
Yeah, totally. But that there is definitely something to be said for like what works. So when we make a song, we may go, hey, this is really this could work. This is like sync gold, right?
Yeah.
And so we try to put it in the hands of a partner, is the way we usually operate, that can try to help get it to the right music supervisors. So we have friends that we know from networking, music conferences, and getting to know people and blah, 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 that we'll send things to independently. But we also have representation that helps when the ad agencies need it, they may contact them.
Yeah.
So we're a little hands off on that side, but there definitely is tricks to things that sometimes we'll make a song, we'll be like, oh yeah, dude, this is it. Like, this is gonna work.
I feel like you all have the story that every artist probably wishes they have, where the music that you make seems to be very genuine to your, kind of more commercial artist persona, which you share with your fans, but it also happens to work really, really well for a sync. And we always say, like, Steph says it time and time again, just make great music and it'll find its place. And so I think, moving forward with that in mind. And then also, I think as you're learning the ropes, as you mentioned, you'll find certain things that, work a little better, you know what I mean? And can kind of make it more marketable towards, sync licensing, but it doesn't seem like the initial intent is that direction. So that's really inspiring to kind of hear that's your all's approach.
Well, one of the things we always talk about is that, like, when people ask us this kind of stuff, we always think, like, this is advice that could work towards any genre, any whatever, right? Like, you want to check in on your song often. How's the pulse of it? Is it moving? That stuff really works well, coincidentally, with if you're editing, right? So if a video editor is making a song, they want lots of options. They want things to cut to. They want dynamics. They want changes. They don't want it to be stagnant the whole time. I mean, I'm sure in film and TV, you could put a song in the background that doesn't change, and it's maybe beneficial, right? If it's not drawing too much attention. But I think in ad music and in what I consider good music, because I think we're both kind of ADD, is like, it's changing. It's giving you something to pay attention to.
It's ear candy. There's fun stuff. You don't get bored with just the track. Yeah. And also, like, Colin and I always joke a lot about how, like, I just want to celebrate. Like, they weren't writing for ads.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a universal concept, and Callie is absolutely right. Like, there are concepts that are just universal that make up a good song. It's not even that they're just good for sync. It's just, it makes a good song because everybody can relate to it. That's pop music. It's universal, Like, Carole King wasn't going, this is going to be in a commercial. Yeah.
She was writing, like, great songs about universal themes, and guess what? they're in every freaking commercial around. So the idea,
Yeah.
and Mike even kind of talked about that, you don't really want them to sound like they're for commercials. There's definitely, well, there's all kinds of, it's a big spectrum, right? There's some people that need like, a click license thing, and then there's people that need like a pre-composed thing, like Mike was saying, where you got,
Yeah.
a year to work on it, and it's a huge spectrum. So everything we're saying just kind of is like,
It's like
our feelings, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
where we're at.
But
Right.
so that's our take on it.
No, I love that. Mike, I saw you flashing. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Oh yeah, I was totally flashing to the. It's got to be a good song first. That's for me the first filter. I know. I was at another agency for a while. No fault to any other agency, but just from hiring freelancers, there are certainly songs that are, oh, that would be great in an ad. And then I went to Droga and my work iTunes and my record collection, which were largely very different. Suddenly, I threw the work iTunes out and just went to the vinyl collection of what's actually a good song, uh, and that has the heart to make things stand out. But I think, you know, MunnyCat was saying was about, uh, it's different mediums. In a film, you have an hour and a half, so there's time for a track to be wallpaper. In an ad, for the most part, we're telling a full narrative in 30 to 60 seconds, maybe 90 or 2 minutes, but mostly 30 or 60 seconds. So there's no time for filler. We have to hit crescendo and come out all in that short time. So ADD songs like that, songs with lots of parts, changes, dynamics are often what will give you a better chance of success. There's not one clear thing. Hey, put these three things, do these three things, and you'll get a sync. But there's certainly things you can do that will increase your chances. And I think that's sort of some of the things they were saying. There's those universal themes, which if you think about a commercial, it's selling a product, it's selling a brand, it's selling a lifestyle, it's selling something. So they're most likely going to want to have a positive feeling when you're leaving that film, when you're leaving that 30, 60 seconds. And so
Right.
that's why with certain
Totally.
themes or want more, there's certain lyrical messages that for sure come up more than others. I think the thing that I'm always looking for and the ads that stick out or the films are the things, the feels that you'll hear over and over. We just want to have something that gives you the feels. And I think recently, making a deck for a client, I've kind of put a somewhat of a definition on a roadmap for me for how to get there. And the first filter is the song's got to be a good song, meaning it's a song I want to listen to out of context of the film. It's a song I want to share to a friend, listen to in a car, a song that I enjoy. So if it's a song that just sounds like an ad or just I don't like that, that's chopped already. The second thing is the messaging that everyone's talking about. Are these lyrics or is the music, even if it's instrumental, is it telling our story? Are the lyrics doing the work of the VO, or is the music itself moving in a way that's enhancing the VO and the characters and messaging of the story? And then the feels, I think, come from that unexpected place. Do you have a good song that's enhancing the message in a way we haven't seen before? So I think we heard a lot about swagger and hip hop, and those are all ways to get across confidence from a brand in a film. And so it used to be blues rock was confidence, and then hip hop took the reins. And so I think it's how can you deliver that message in a way we haven't heard before? That's
Yeah.
where the feels come in. It's a good song, and so it's like for confidence, we want like I usually do a lot of food analogies because it's just easier. But hey, we want a burger, but this burger is made up of like sauce, but it tastes like a burger. Like that unexpected way is where the feels. You're hearing something, you're getting a message in a way you haven't.
Love it. You're talking my language. A lot of this is really resonates with me, and I want to see if I can get one more question before we do the reset at the top of the hour. But a lot of what you all are sharing as well was really helpful, even for me, making this transition over here, because in my artist journey, I was in a very niche side of hip hop, kind of in a Christian hip hop market, and so I've had songs during that time that happened to get picked up. But it was me kind of doing a bit of research to kind of know, what those themes are, kind of how to pivot, a little bit, still being true to who I was, but, something that felt most appropriate for, the brands that I'm looking to serve. And so this kind of gets me to this next question. I'm going to pitch it to Mike, and even Oscar as well. You might be able to chime in on this. I was just curious because, there's sites like IMDb and TuneFind, which help, artists kind of find some of the key players, where this stuff is getting placed, and even what, music for TV and film kind of sounds like. And I wanted to know, are there any ways to find or see what ads have been placed and by whom? So effectively, if somebody wanted to see, Mike, work that you've placed and landed and been a part of, specifically in the ad space, where might an artist kind of go to do that kind of research and maybe know who's behind it and what's being used?
Yeah, there's a website. I think it's iSpot.tv. I think is what it is.
That's
Yeah,
it.
that's it.
I thought
That's
that
it.
TV.
There you go. Yeah, that doesn't always have supervisor credits, but it usually does have the agency. On Ad Age, if you type in specific spots, and then I think it's just maybe one more step of research. Most supervisors sort of have some sort of website. Mine's a terrible Tumblr, but there's something there. Everyone's kind of Googleable. It's sort of, I think, like a movie, like, Google the movie, Google the ad that I think that you like, and then you can kind of backtrack, or just, there's only so many ad agencies. There's not that many. So there's the in-house agency producer. There's like 25 of us or something like that. There's a lot of third-party companies and music houses and people who do music supervision within the ad space, but the in-house agency seat is there's not many chairs at that table, so it's just kind of a few of us who handle a lot of that in-house work for the brands.
Awesome. I see Callie's mic. I don't know. Callie wanted to chime in on that.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize I was on.
Oh, okay. No worries. No worries. Cool. Well, I guess I'll do a quick reset. Unless Eric, I saw you opened up. Do you have something you want to add, Eric?
No, go for it. We're good for a reset.
Cool. Right on the dot too. 9 o'clock. Cool. So for everybody just joining us, we've been having a really enlightening conversation with our special guests here. But if this is your first time joining us, welcome. We are Control Camp. Here we're a community built for independent artists, songwriters, composers, producers, all of the above, who are wanting to get their music in TV and film for sync licensing. I'm one of your hosts, Daraj. Joining me are my amazing co-hosts, Eric Campbell and Steph Fink. We do this particular room every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we like to have real conversations with people on the other side of sync licensing, either composers or music supervisors, agents, publishers, and we like to just have conversations, real dialogue to understand what it looks like to be in their shoes, what it looks like to pitch and place music, as well as, how we can serve them in their efforts as well. So we love to do this room. We record our room. So if you're just joining us, if you missed it, don't worry. We will have a link for this on our Patreon. So if you slide over to controlcamp.com, and that's spelled CTRL camp.com, it'll be available on our Sync 101 page, and there you'll find our Patreon link. And you can roam around. You'll see some of the other resources that we have as well. And we've provided those for you at a really, really affordable cost, just to help you in your journey to really take advantage of the power of this side, which we call sync licensing. So yeah, we've been having a really, really great and enriched discussion. And so if you're new to us, again, make sure you tap the home button at the top. You can follow our club. And just a word as well, we do a after party after our Wednesday room. So we'll be doing this for about another hour. But if you would like to just kind of hang out with us, it's a really fun time and unmoderated. Is we pull everybody up on stage, whoever wants to come, and we just talk. You know what I mean? We get into a lot of interesting conversations, but that is only open to our clubhouse members. So make sure you're following Control Camp. and we'll get you going, and you can pop in and have some fun with us. And yeah, so with that said, welcome to the camp. We've been having a really good conversation about ads, creating music for ads, and just doing a deep dive. And so we have a really, really noteworthy panel with us, and we want to keep the conversation going. I think we may have a couple more questions before we move into a Q&A time with the audience, but I'm gonna kick it over to Eric to help moderate that. So go ahead, Eric, take it away.
Awesome. This is just great. So let's keep this going. So I want to talk in our room a lot. We talk about paths to get placements, and we talk about that you can submit music through a music library. We talk about how you can associate yourself, partner with a sync agent or a sync agency that will represent your music. We talk about direct pitching, doing the research, finding the supervisors, sending things out, right? And so there also now there's more technology sites that allow you to upload your music, and also will allow you to pitch through the site. So there's many ways now to get music into some of these places. So I'm interested in what's been more effective for you, MunnyCat, for you, Callie. I believe, MunnyCat, you have representation, you said. Can you share who that is? And then is that your main way of getting sync licensing?
Yeah, so we work with several different companies.
Sorry, there's a fire
there's
engine.
a fire engine passing. Yeah, but no, we work with several different licensing companies. The company that has the majority of our music is Marmoset, so they have gotten us the majority of our placements. Some of our largest placements have come from us meeting and making friends with music supervisors and people who work at ad agencies at like music conferences. So just like over time, you get closer to them. We had our song placed on Dickinson on Apple TV, which is like Haley Steinfeld's show. And I think that what happened was we had a friend who used to be a music coordinator on the show, and then she left a season or so ago. And then like the new crew just like saw it. They found the song in the library, and so they kind of got
right song.
Yeah. So Colin, do you have anything
No,
to
yeah,
add?
that. And so we have an EP coming out with Position. So it's a combination of both. So it's definitely helpful, because remember, like, we always joke that like Mr. Target doesn't like call me back, or like Wendy's doesn't like reach out to Kate and Khalid, right? But they may have connections at an agency that you don't have,
Yeah.
But then making those relationships, and I don't know, I mean, I don't mean to speak for music supervisors, so if anybody here can correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, they're music fans, and it's their job to find this music. So when we make a new song, we get an email, and we go, hey, buddy, we just put out this new jam, if it's relevant to what they do, right? And keep an eye on their career. And so we do reach out to them directly too. So it's that combination of both. And they may not get back to us every single time. That's fine. They got shit going on, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, but we try to remind them, like, hey, we got a new song, and here's a link to all of our old material too, on disco or whatever you want to use, with instrumentals and everything. So there is a lot of work in it, but it's both ends that work for us the best.
I love that you balance the representation with the direct pitching. And before I get same question from Callie, just a follow up, because we met at Durango, where you are pitching yourself to supervisors. And tell me what you're able to share, and we totally understand what you're not able to share. But within your agreement with Marmoset, I guess it allows you to still pitch yourself or partner. We talk about the differences between exclusive and non-exclusive. Can you expound on that? Are you able to?
Yeah. So what we tend to do is we will give the different companies exclusive rights on a song by song basis. So they're going to be the only company. We don't do retitles. I know some people do retitles. We don't do that. A company will get this song, and that's the only place you can get it, is through them. But we have it so like every single song can kind of like, we can find the best. When we have a song, we might be like, oh, this song would be really good in Film TV. We honestly, in all fairness, might not send that song to Marmoset to rep it because they crush it in ads, but they
Yeah.
don't do as much in film and TV. So we might send it to somebody else, you know? So it's sort of like looking at our catalog and figuring out what fits the best where and where are we setting it up the best for success.
And I'm not sure if this is what you're getting at, that, but theoretically though, so say we pitch it and we get it, but that licensing house is exclusively representing it, they would still get a cut. So I mean, I know people could be like, "Hey, that's not fair."
It's a
But
partnership.
it's a part. Yeah,
You
it
know?
works for, at least for us in that situation. It may not for everybody, right? But in our situation, that does work. So even if we specifically get that one, it's not like a tit for tat, because God knows they're getting us a bunch of other stuff, and they're really really good at like things like micro syncs, and even when they get us national campaigns too. But those micro syncs, like I said, we
They're
don't
always
have the
cooking.
manpower to be reaching out to every single company that needs this for a, you know, it's a healthy diet, right? So you get like one Snapchat ad, and then you get like a national television commercial, and then you get, you know, something that just is on YouTube, and then something that's just on some internal for a company. But they have all those connections that we don't have the time or the really the resources or the Rolodex or whatever to reach out to all those people. So it works for us fairly, and if we're not against exclusive stuff, if the people are working for you, you know. So
Yeah.
if somebody, people ask us a lot about that. If you get an exclusive offer and they seem like a good fit, sure, give them a chance. Give them a year on a song, and if they don't do anything with that song, maybe
Yeah,
have it
that's what
written
I
in that you
would
could
say.
take it back. You know.
Just make sure there's like a fire escape or something you can pull if they're not working your song, that you're able to like reclaim it. You know, like it's exclusive for a year and then we'll revisit it and see how you're doing with it.
Yeah.
I love that. And I really appreciate you sharing that, both the way you pitch and the way you also pitch yourself. That's really insightful. So, Callie, are you similar? I know you do things. Well, I know you've had placements through SongTrader, which we haven't talked about, so I want to hear from that. But you also, do you work through agencies? And if so, can you share who you work with and or how that works?
Yeah, so I'm fairly similar in how I approach it to MunnyCat. Although I will say I tend to split my catalog. About half of the songs I'll sign away exclusively, and the other half I keep exclusive. But I basically do end up pitching both of those halves myself. Also, obviously, just like what MoneyCat said, if I land an exclusive song through a soup or direct to ad agency or something like that, the exclusive library representing that song is going to get a cut of it. Whereas on the other hand, if I pitch one of my non-exclusive songs direct to soup or ad agency or something, then in that case, obviously, my co-writers and I share the entire sync fee. And it's interesting because I obviously work with a lot of people who have had massive success with their exclusive catalogs and stuff. But oddly enough, I've had far more success with my non-exclusive songs. And that I don't know how it worked out that way. It just had. So I'm definitely not opposed to exclusive. I still sign a lot of songs away exclusively. But I definitely do like to pitch non-exclusive songs also. And I do work with a lot of the same libraries and agencies that MoneyCat works with also. You know, I do some work with Marmoset. I work with Riptide. Mutiny Records is a really good one for me. I work closely with them. And just kind of, you know, like they said, you got to try to decide what is going to be the best home for your song. So a little bit of thought does have to go into that, as for, you know, who it's going to be the best fit for. But then in regards to SongTrader, yeah, SongTrader is a super cool service. I do upload some songs to the site, and it's kind of cool how, I think if I'm a pro member, you can sign up for, I think there's a free version where if they land a placement, they take, I want to say 40%. And then if you're pro, which is like $5 a month, they only take 20% of the sync fee if they land it. And it's cool because they post listings on the site that you can pitch your music to, but they also are pitching internally. And they actually landed, I don't do a whole lot of pitching on their site, but I have landed a couple spots from them pitching my music internally, which is always a lovely surprise, and I appreciate that. But yeah, it's for me, it's just all about balance, you know, kind of half exclusive, half non-exclusive. Got to find the right home for your songs, got to, pitch the right ones to the music soups and those kind of things. But it's all just a big balancing act.
That is so awesome. I believe Steph is going to jump in with a question, but MoneyCat, I just want to throw out, we are doing a micro sync room in about 2 weeks, so hopefully we can have you maybe come back and join us as we
We
talk
would
about
love
that.
to. Absolutely.
I wanted to direct something towards Oscar because we haven't heard from you in a minute, mister. Don't think you're getting away with it. This is Oscar's very, very first time on Clubhouse. He was, a little skeptical. He's not a big social media guy. He likes to keep his legend status. So,
Steph converts everybody.
for those of you who are new to our room, I am notorious for the needing of an air horn when people drop really amazing information. And Koichi in our audience, who's one of our regular crew guys, usually does it for us. And for those of you who don't know, because it seems like there's not a lot of new faces on Clubhouse today, if you see flashing mics like this, that's our way of applauding in Clubhouse for people without having to interrupt them. So if somebody says something really great and you see flashing mics on the stage, that's what that means. Oscar, I wanted to they see. I wanted to ask you, could you share with us an experience in sync for ads where the music really made it, or anywhere where you got to play a part musically in music for ads that you made something happen that might have been difficult or interesting or fun? You must have a good war story in there somewhere.
Actually, it's weird in the advertising world. I don't have a good creative war story. Most of those battles that stick out in my mind immediately are actually negotiations. How sad is that? But the thing that's unique about representing a bunch of writers, many of whom think they want to get into sync, but actually are probably not that great at it, is really figuring that part out. So I really feel like that there's there's an internal struggle. No, this wasn't expecting what you thought I might say, but I think in working in publishing as long as I have, when I find those writers that get it, I tend to work with them on stuff. And whether that's in reimagining catalog and trying to get things placed through that avenue, which we haven't touched on at all today, by the way, um, those kind of creative moments are the most satisfying for me. And I'll work with anybody, even if they aren't at the publishing company.
Wait, can we talk about that for a minute? That's actually really important. And as a matter of fact, I've brought you up in a room before when you weren't here because we often get the question, is it worth it to cover songs? Because we hear a lot of cover songs in ads and we hear them in movies and other places, but yet a lot of people will say don't cover songs. And my rule is I won't cover a song, or our team won't cover songs unless I get it from someone like you. We've done cover songs for your catalog. How do you choose what songs get covered, and how does our audience as creators know what's worth covering and what kind of asks are worth covering? Who should they be looking for those opportunities for
Sure.
or through?
I think it's been touched on by some other creatives on here that you write something and you're like, oh, that's good for sync, and at some point you kind of have an idea of why it might work and still be like a great authentic song. um, Carole King was mentioned, I think, as well. And the truth of it is that there's certain songs that just lend themselves to a particular emotion or a lyric theme that is consistently used over and over again, and it just speaks to the strength of that song, the cultural importance that it has, and and just its recognizability. Sometimes you're pitching stuff on that alone. Um, the the tough thing that I think a lot of music supervisors struggle with, and Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that I think when you're marketing in an advertising world, you're trying to hit a large demographic, unless a brand doesn't really care about that. But it seems like they want to hit the broadest group of people possible. So it's really common for people to take a very well-known song from any particular era, and then putting current production touches on it, and even maybe a lyric twist, or featuring the most syncable lyric that exists within that song, and then making it more appealing to present day ears or sensibilities. So I don't think the cover is ever going to die. Mike, I think you touched on blues rock was killing it for a while, and then another genre started dominating things, and there's these trends that kind of happen. And so you can kind of think of any song out there that's been popular through the eras, and probably a new current cover version of that fits a certain sound will have some legs. And depending on how creative the producers are, and appealing to the ADD element of our society, you increase your chances there. But cover requests come in all the time, and I think it's going to be important forever.
Okay, so my follow-up question to you is, as creators, as most of our camp is in this audience, how does someone like you, who holds the key to the publishing side of that catalog, let's say I'm somebody and I make a song, I'm songwriter X, and I make a cover song of something totally famous in your catalog. Is it better to approach you first as a publisher saying, hey, you have this really famous song in your catalog, I'd love to do a cover? Or is it better to make a really dope cover of it and send it to you, knowing that you might be like, that's cool that you did Johnny Cash, we're not looking for Johnny Cash covers? What's the path of least resistance to, since you have so many catalogs, that's what I want to know.
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I'm really sensitive to producer and artists' inspiration. So if somebody's inspired to do something, and they just happen to do it, and then they figure out who the original publisher is, and they send it to that publisher, and figure out maybe somebody on the sync team and say, hey, I did this cover, would you consider putting it into your catalog and pitching it for opportunities? You might win that way, because what comes from somebody's being moved by a particular song that they want to cover is that inspiration exists, and that's hard to capture. Trying to force people to write or do a cover of something when there's not really a target, meaning a project to place that song in, you can get kind of half-ass versions, and they're uninspired, and the supervisor can hear it, right? The next thing is, if a supervisor comes to you and they're looking for a particular theme, you happen to have a couple songs that do have that lyric theme, and they're looking for a new version. Now you have a target, and now you can go out to people, and at least there's something that you're working towards, and there's an actual pitch on the other end from my side. I think that's more motivating than anything. I really don't like spinning creative's wheels on doing something if it's just kind of out there in the ether, and you don't know if there's going to be an actual spot for it. You want to give as much creative direction in the cover process so that you know that they're delivering something to you that you can actually use.
I love that you just answered this. Thank you, Oscar. This has been a question that we've gotten many, 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 many times, and we've heard not as a great or direct answer as we heard it tonight. So we greatly appreciate that. Eric, you want to jump in here?
Yep. Let's go to Jason, and also shout out to Amy Rowland, who's on the stage now. How you doing, Amy?
Hi, how are you? Thanks for inviting me up.
Yeah, thanks for always joining. We appreciate having you here.
We appreciate you.
So Jason, you were talking about briefs and just the time management. Can you shift just a little bit with the creative in that energy of working with these briefs and working with these timelines and being organized creatively? How do you approach, the wide range of things that these briefs can come from? So whether something is coming to you saying, hey, we need something from the 40s, or we need something that sounds like this current song that's on the radio, or we need something that has a Latin feel. How is your mind set up that you can shift creatively into something really quickly, stay in that space, and then shift on to the next? Do you have workflow things that you do to be able to shift like that?
I usually end up sitting in the corner, sucking my thumb and shaking a lot. But other than that,
Ah,
No, it's a lot of that is experience and getting used to that. It takes a while to build up your skill set. Obviously, first and foremost, be a fan of music, be a fan of all types of music, and like for me, when early in my career, I was trying to be a rock star. I was like touring with DJs at raves and trying to be a singer. And shout out to my bandmate Annalise, who's down in the audience. We had our band called Dinky. Um, and I would try to go for these record deals, but I couldn't. We're talking about ADD, and I don't like to minimize it. It can be debilitating, but I couldn't stay focused on a sound. And I just sort of I realized that I just loved making I loved making all kinds of music, and so I developed that skill set. And actually, just to backtrack a bit, because I know we've covered um, a lot of the ways of getting into advertising through licensing opportunities. But I want to also let the younger writers or people who may not know the other angle of getting into ad music is working. I started my career as a staff writer in, I guess, what is pejoratively somewhat called a jingle house or a music house, even though jingles can still be fun. I wrote I fully admit I wrote the Daisy Sour Cream jingle, and I'm proud of it. Sorry to everyone who's been subject to that, but that's the thing. Like, so I started this from getting working with to brief. So someone like Mike or from an agency will come over and say, we need, I'm not going to write Daisy Sour Cream on my own. I'm not going to, write something that targeted. So the other way to do it is to either as a freelancer or pitch music houses. Mike mentioned Q Department in New York. Places like that exist that typically, when I first started, you typically stay focused on advertising only, but now everybody's kind of doing a bit of everything. So you have to, be aware of all aspects of the business. But so when I got into ads, I started at a place called Grayson Matthews in Toronto, and we just started. We were young and we're like on fire, and we loved music, and we just like one day we were writing a piece of rock music, the next we're writing some jazz, and how it goes. And found that we really excelled at that, and made a career out of it. And for me, I didn't license any piece of music until like well into 10 years into my career. Most of it was to brief custom music for advertising. So that still exists. It's not quite as you have to branch out a little beyond that these days, but that still does exist. Targeted music for advertisements, and there are companies that do that. And the way you approach those companies, sorry, I'm flying off the question here a bit, but I'll get back to it. The way you target these companies, if you may have done some custom scoring to ads already, you may have done some custom scoring to films, but even if you haven't, pull a cool ad that you like from wherever, iSpot, YouTube, wherever, and make your own reel, score it yourself, and then walk into these companies and show them what you do, and you might get work as a freelancer, and they'll start sending you briefs. That's what we do at Music House as well. So there's a broad spectrum of ways to get into advertising, but really, for at this point, after this long, honestly, it's become, and I don't want to sound too airy fairy, but it's become like a Zen process for me, where I see a brief, I read it thoroughly, I look for all the keywords. um, I then walk away from my computer, I get my dog, and I go for a walk, and I start to come up with melodies. I start to imagine how the story is unfolding. Sometimes there's pictures, sometimes there's not. Um, but I'm looking. If there's picture, I'm looking for key moments that need to be highlighted, and it's not often the director or music soup or whoever will, or the creatives at the agencies will tell you where they want things to build, but maybe there's a little movement of a hand somewhere. Maybe there's a car turn here that can be highlighted, and all these little moments help build your story. And so that a lot of it just comes from experience. For me, I now I write when I'm walking around the block with my dog. That's where I do my best writing, and then I come back and I sit down. But that's taken a long time to get to that point. When I first started, it was I was up all night, freaking out and just trying to do my best. And that's, and working really, really, really hard and making sure everything I do sounds great. And the same still applies. It has to be a great piece of music. And it might not be the most for ads or for anything really. It depends. If you're doing a really targeted brief, it might not be like the coolest piece of music that's on the radio right now. It's the best piece of music for that story. And you want to make sure you're serving the story. And paying attention to detail is really important. Directors um, pick up on that. If you're catching little moments that maybe they missed with sound design or with an instrumental flourish or something, all those things matter. Um,
Yeah,
I'll,
Jason actually taught me a lot about sound design within ad and brand work when, scoring to pick. It was something I didn't understand at advertising, and we were doing like a Motorola commercial and everybody loved the song, and we couldn't figure out when it went final, when the final edit came in, we were all scratching our heads because we knew something was off, and Jason's beautiful mind figured out that the click of the sound that the phone made, it was like a little boop, it was like off a semitone and it was rubbing us all the wrong way, but we didn't know, and he figured that out and he's like, oh, just give it to me, fixed every time the phone went boop, and put it in the right key, and it was like a whole new world. So that stuff is really critical. That's a really good point, Jason. So studying sound design, studying all the other things that go along with music to picture is a huge part of advertising, which we haven't really touched on until you kind of said that tonight. It's really not just about songs to that fit. It's about really getting those songs to be scored to pick, which I think we should broaden up the topic. But Jason, you brought up something really good that I wanted to toss over to Mike Ladman. You brought up music houses, and MunnyCat brought up representation and things like that. Mike, I'm half asking you this knowing the answer, but for our audience sake, I want to lead you to the question of saying, how important is it for you, being as large an agency as you are, with all of the money on the line, that you're working through a reputable source? And how often do you work with independent creators versus really going through what you called a trusted source? And how do you determine who and what becomes a trusted source for you?
Yeah, no, that is a good question that I think. Um, yeah, it's errors and omissions insurance is sort of the first question, the first date. You can't even get to the first date if you don't have that. So for I think any agency, it's almost a non-starter if the writer or owner of the music doesn't have that. And specifically for bespoke stuff, like a music house. And what that insurance is, which it's pretty expensive, which is why independent people don't often have it. But that's basically saying that you own the song, it's 100% original, and if whether intentional or not, someone comes out of the woodwork and says, "Hey, that's my melody," um, it covers us and indemnifies us for all that. So the reason we like to go to trusted sources, so all music houses have that, trusted labels, as opposed to SoundCloud. I mean, I have licensed tracks off SoundCloud for Microsoft and Chase, but they're kind of nightmares with samples and things like that. It's sort of like, yeah, I can go and get a hot dog off the street, or I can go into Nathan's and get one that I know is vetted by the FDA, hopefully. That's sort of what it's like
Great analogy. That's
as a
amazing.
music supervisor. It's like you could do it. Sometimes it's a fun gamble. You're in New York, you kind of got to do it. Maybe it's like that dude's sweat is the magic of the street dog, and you go there a couple times like once every couple of years. But usually, if I go to a restaurant, I assume that it is safe and protected. There's no samples. There's all the rights and splits have been taken care of. I know that the person who's selling it to me can stand by their product and make sure that, because I think sometimes we've even had cases where someone's like, "Oh, it's just a drum sample, but I tweaked it and no one can even notice." That thing that's getting a couple thousand streams on Spotify or even a million or so, once it goes in public broadcast, like a Facebook spot or when we did, Pixel, and it's a global spot, there's so many more eyes on it. And there's people and there are lawyers and people who literally just watch commercials, and then they'll call every member of the band and ask if they had rights for that to make sure, and then they'll come back and lawsuits happen and whether they're true or not. So that's why we like to go to trusted people. There are ways to do it. Every supervisor has their own way of doing things, and it's not like we're trying to say no, we can't work with you direct, but yeah, that trusted partner. I'd rather go to a doctor than just a dude in the street, sort of.
That's maybe the best answer I've heard on Clubhouse yet. It's really great. That's a really good analogy because what Mike is saying too works the other way. If you're the person that gives, well, stick with your food analogy. If you give this music supervisor food poisoning, you could be sure they're not going to return to you. So it's like kind of like a death sentence career wise to do that kind of stuff. And very sadly, like Mike was saying, I just want to reiterate this point that you could do all the things right and you can be 100% in the clear. Stupid people will come out of the woodwork with even fake lawsuits or frivolous lawsuits and say and Psychosis has been in our room before. He talked about a writer who he had rights from, but the writer didn't realize because he was not a prolific sing person that he could license his own song or any of those things. So lawsuits come out of nowhere, and when they happen, they just are like a freight train that can't be stopped. And like Jason was talking about before, it's kind of a domino effect that affects everybody from the agency all the way up to the brand. It can also make the agency look really bad. So stuff to really consider, and also why we always say get inspired by, don't copy, don't sound alike, and don't just rip things from Splice. Really be wholly original in your work. That's great. Daraj, it's 6:30. You want to do a little quick reset?
Yes, let's do a quick reset, and I think we're good to go into the Q&A. Is that right, Eric?
Yeah,
Let's
do it.
Yeah, we can start that too.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry about that. I thought I had my mic on unmuted. So for everybody who is just joining us, welcome. We are Control Camp. We're a community built for independent artists, composers, producers who are looking to get their music into TV and film for sync licensing. We do this room every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've been going for about an hour and a half now. And it's been really great. If you missed it, don't worry. We record our room. So if you swing over to controlcamp.com over to the Sync 101 page, you'll be able to find the full replay of this message as well as all of the other ones that we've done since we started here on Clubhouse. So really dope, having some really just great conversation. I just want to thank all of our guests here who have just given their time and have shared so much valuable information. A flashing mic round of applause for everybody. But yeah, I don't want to do too long of a reset because I know we had some anxious hands in the audience who would love to chime in and ask their questions to our guests. And so we just want to also just let you know when we bring you up, we're going to bring a few people up at a time. If you could be really brief, and actually we kind of prefer no real intros, just kind of go straight into your question. And we're also asking that the question be targeted to what was spoken about today. So if you have a question about writing music for ads, or there was something specifically that one of our speakers spoke about, let your question be geared towards that direction. And after you ask your question, we're going to put you back in the audience. And it's not because, we don't want you up here or anything. We just found that it helps us to answer more questions. As you ask yours, we put you down. We're able to kind of get more people in. So, So with that said, we're going to get right into it. I see Eric's been he opened up hand raising, or Eric or Steph opened up hand raising. So we're going to get to a few people and get this thing going. I'll kick it to you, Eric.
Cool. And just since it's 9:35, 9:37, we normally try to end at 10. We might go 10, 15 minutes over just on the time, but I'm going to ask the moderators, since we have a limited time for each question, and we got a nice queue lining up for each question. If we can, it'll be open to whoever wants to answer depending on the question, but we're going to try to limit the responses to 1 to 2 people so that we can kind of get as many questions in as possible. So a question will come, we'll put the person back in the audience, 1 or 2 people will respond. If we need to pull somebody back up for follow-up, we can always do that. But we find that this helps keep it flowing. So with that, let's say what's up. I'm sorry, Steph.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, and feel free to direct your question to a specific speaker if you have one. That also helps.
Awesome, awesome. All right. First up, we have Annalise. Hey, Annalise.
Hey, how's it going?
Very
Hi,
good.
friends on the panel there.
Hi,
Um,
friend.
Hello.
I have a question that I sort of know the answer to, but I think it would be great for the room. So, Mike was talking about when he has a job that is high profile or whatnot and needs to go to trusted sources of music. If you were an independent writer trying to pitch stuff and feel like it might be dangerous to pitch because you don't have a musicologist and you may or may not be delivering. Would you say, and this is probably directed to Steph, the best people for that writer to pitch to are the music houses because then they can help deliver what's needed and help direct the writer? You know what I mean? Like, is that sort of the best way
Bef-
to go?
Before Steph answers that, I want to add on to that because that's an amazing question that I've even had. And so, just the thoughts of if you write a song and you know it's amazing, but there's something even to you that feels familiar to it, where do you go? Are there musicologists, or what's the steps that a writer should take?
Um, I validate a number of ways, and we go like this all the time because our clients ask us to get very close to things, and it's something that really ticks me off. And you've heard me say it before. I go, look for feel, look for tempo, look for that swag or that vibe that they're really going for versus trying to listen to your client when they say, can you do a sound alike? Because 9 times out of 10, they don't really want a sound alike. They just really want that feel or that essence, and they're dying for something new that's, great like that. If you did get close, what I would do is validate it with other people. I would send something, and we had a song like that. We were doing a song for the UFC, and they asked us to get close, not close, but like they asked for like an Eminem type vibe, and we did a song, and I was like, ooh, this feels close, even though I know it's not, and it's so different. And then we changed a bunch of shit, and it still felt close to me. I sent it out to, you know, other people in the business, other friends, other artists, other music houses. I'm fortunate to have those. So I would send it to music houses if you have, because those people deal with that a lot. And then eventually I did hire a musicologist because, I do have but I never want to have mud on my face. So I actually hired two independent musicologists because the first one didn't convince me and then the second one did. So I'm a little OCD with that kind of stuff. But simply put, I would say just validate it like you do any other song. If you want to know your song is good, you send it to those people. Those are the same people I would send it out to, because everybody knows. And if you want to do it yourself, check tempo, check the lyrics, check the key of the song, check the vibe of the song, check instrumentation. Those are the five big things that I would say. If any of those match too much, then you're probably in the danger zone.
Yeah, agree with all that. Another quick analogy. It's sort of like middle school, high school, like dress codes, right? If you have to ask if it's okay to wear it, maybe don't, sort of thing. And I think if you're doing that song, it's probably similar. But everything Steph said is spot on.
I love that.
That brought me back.
the hand to skirt ratio. It's a real thing.
That is so awesome. Thank you both. Motor Girl, how you doing?
Hey, you guys. Thank you, Eric, Duraj, and Steph, for this room and this topic tonight. This is pretty amazing. I just wanted to quickly say congratulations to Mike on the Hennessy commercial. It's just really phenomenal. Just watched it. Amazing. And also thank you to all the panelists for giving us your knowledge and time. I have a question for Callie J. And first, I just want to say hello and that I'm happy to see you here. I've been in total awe of your quick rise in the ad world, and I've followed your journey since the 2019 Taxi Conference. And I was wondering, how many collaborators do you work with? And were they already connected to the ad world? And how much was that part of your success?
Hey girl. So yeah, in terms of like how many people I work with, I would say I'm trying to do a quick count. I would say there's honestly probably 4 or 5 producers that I work with on a very regular basis, like almost weekly or biweekly. And then I maybe have another 3 to 4 that I might work with on, one-offs, like, once a month or something like that. So I definitely have my go-tos. Because once you find your rhythm with people and stuff, you can really just kind of knock out songs like that. So it's important to find people that you can click with and just write a ton with. But then in terms of where they already established in the business, yes. And yeah, like the taxi rally I got connected with when I was first getting into sync. That was in the fall of 2017. Got connected with producers that were already writing for film and TV at the taxi rally, and they were very nice and took a chance on me. And that's kind of how I first got my foot in the door, because they already had connections with libraries and stuff. So that was kind of a critical move, by finding collaborators that were already established and were willing to take a chance on me as a top liner and vocalist. And now I've reached the point where I'm kind of returning the favor, and I've started working with a producer or two that are new in the business but are awesome producers in their own right. They just haven't had any placements yet. So now I'm kind of taking a chance on young producers now, and returning the favor. But yeah, I think in terms of getting into the business, working with people that are already established is very helpful. So yeah.
Great response. All right, next we got Josh up on stage. How you doing, Josh?
What's going on, guys? Hey, actually, um, Annalise and I were kind of thinking on the same page. That was my exact question. So I don't want to take anybody else's time from question time, but yeah, thanks again for the room. You guys are great.
I appreciate you, Josh. Thank you, man. All right, Kyler, what's going on?
Hello. Thank you all so much for the gems tonight. All the panelists appreciate you, and I always appreciate Control Camp. My question is for Mike. I loved your breakdown of the good song earlier. And as a quick aside, I got some feedback from you through the grapevine on an a cappella track, and giving me a little bit of a Bon Iver harmonizer style that everyone on Control Camp has heard now. So thank you for that. You specifically talked about making things more unexpected and such, and that's really influenced my style of the music I've worked on this year. So I'm kind of wondering what kind of unexpected sounds in pop, hip hop, or rock you've heard that you think really work, that you'd like to hear more of, just in the sync world in general, from artists, or just like any ideas about what you'd like to hear more of that's unexpected but still in that kind of good range.
I think I remember that track, and I liked that Bon Iver reference was it took what could have been a beautiful voice and kind of destroyed it. So that was unexpected. It's sort of like James Blake at the time when he came out. Auto tune was used to fix voices, and he had a great voice and used that as a tool to manipulate it. So for me, unexpected is all about context. A guitar solo in a rock song makes sense. A guitar solo, you know, somewhere else probably doesn't. Like maybe how Daft Punk would have used it. So I always like that special ingredient, that sort of umami. That's why I gravitate towards some older songs that were lost in time. Or, for example, Rocksteady, reggae. They got an Otis Redding album, a Beatles album. They tried to copy that. And instead you get a new version of soulful reggae. William Oleander. So things that I'm hearing now, it's the best example would be Old Town Road. It's, hey, here's hip hop and country. Some of those things can crash and fail. I think that's it's blending of things. What's that one ingredient, that flaw? Radiohead Creep. I think it was Johnny Greenwood tried to kill that song with those guitar chunchunts, which are now iconic. So it's kind of the thing that's wrong. So the imperfections are kind of really the beauty. So it's those things that I look for, the humanity within a song, the little flaw when you hear Pink Floyd pop a string, or MF Doom sings kind of off key. It's those moments that to me are unexpected. Where can you cross, genres, slow down, half tempo? Um, yeah, go left and you expect to go right. I'm trying to think of a specific example. I don't know. There's this YY Collective African album that came out this year that kind of blew my mind because a Swedish dude kind of produced this West African collection of poems. So there's a bit of electronic to an African kind of thing. But the blues, straight up blues, kind of bore me because I know what's coming next. So I want to be surprised with the left turn. You hear a big buildup and then there's a drop. So like, how can you change structure, add one ingredient, put what's that thing on a burger that I wouldn't expect to be there? If that answers your question.
I'm always hungry after Mike's analogies.
I was just gonna say that. I'm starving.
Yeah, so food great. And music are the same. Taste and music both don't exist. Every culture has them, and they're the best things. It's just
Amen.
Talking about music is tap dancing about architecture sort of thing. So people can relate to food a bit more.
That is so cool. Victoria, we got you next. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thank you guys for this room and for having me up here. My original question was very similar to Kristen's for Callie, about your team of producers, but since I got an answer to that, I'm going to pivot to ask any of the creatives up here if you've found that simpler lyrics tend to work better for ad syncs, because I tend to get lost in the poetry of it all.
Well, the one thing that we have found is that if we're talking advertising, right? Clear and concise in the chorus is probably a good idea. But if you really want to make it an intriguing song, something that people will want to listen to over and over again outside the context of, the advertisement, have a lot of fun with your verses and break all the rules that you think you need to follow. It just helps, you definitely want to keep whatever your lyrical trademark is. I know we name drop ourselves in our verses, and we'll say some cuss words. You got to make sure you have a clean, but there's definitely like room in songs are all about push and pull, and so you can kind of earn that big, open, fun, simple chorus by packing in a lot into your verses, in our opinion, right?
And like justifying it.
Yeah.
Like, how do you explain that simple chorus so it doesn't just seem like a simple, boring song?
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great response. Thank you. Kevin, got you next. I like the way they're moving. Love all the questions. I love how they're all very focused on ads. This is great. Let's keep it going. What you got, Kevin?
How you doing? Thanks so much for the room. Very, very informative. I have lots of questions, but I have one quick question. I do mostly instrumental music, and I'm just curious how much of a disadvantage that is when it comes to trying to get music into advertising.
Jason, maybe? You got a perspective on this?
Yeah, not a great disadvantage at all. A lot of advertising is, a lot of announcer read or a lot of dialogue. And so, you'll be having a bank of, we've got a bank of instrumental tracks that we have. So you're definitely not at a disadvantage. But then if you need a top liner, then you've got someone like Callie that you call to assist you with that. And you find some good top liners that you can work with. In order to, if you need some lyrical content on your tracks. But no, you're not at a disadvantage.
Yeah, and just to go off of that real quick, actually, like at the bare minimum, ads need the instrumental. And I would say, I don't know if MunnyCat has had the same experience, but in terms of my ad placements, I would say it's about 50-50 whether or not the brand ends up going with the vocal version of the song as opposed to the instrumental. So
totally,
the ads always need the instrumental. Whether or not they need the vocals is, a case-by-case basis.
Great insights. Thank you all. Holly J's up next. Hey, Holly.
Hi guys, thanks again for always putting on an awesome room. Appreciate you. I know this is cheeky, but Kelly J, I'm totally going to be reaching out to you as a producer in the future. I love your vibe. I saw you speak on Taxi recently, and it was awesome. But my question is, in the ad world, with all of your like music as artists, or even like from the more representative side of things, how important is it that we keep our music unreleased until we get placements? I'm in a bit of a conundrum at the moment.
I think for the large part, not. Unless you're unless you're a household name waiting to debut a song in a spot. But as long as it doesn't have a ton of placements, is all that I really care about. Um, I know there can be advantage. There's certain times where it is nice to be able to premiere it, but it's usually not going to get in the way of the thing. The sync history is more important than it being out or not out.
Great. Thank you for the response. That's awesome. And a good question, too. Jeremy, you're up next. How's it going?
Good. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, everybody. Great room, as always. MunnyCat, love you guys. It's been great talking to you over the last couple of months.
Totally,
Aw,
Um,
man.
you're the
Jeremy's dope.
man.
I have a question for you guys and Jason, most definitely. So most of my music is all organic instruments, um, and I know this is a new side of my business. As a producer, and I know for quick turnarounds, I'm gonna have to start using a lot more, virtual instruments. And I'm wondering how you guys go about it. Do you actually think about that? How much do you think about it when you're doing it? I know you got Jason. You have a little bit different take on it, but what is dictating that when you're working? As how many organic instruments, virtual instrument, and then if you're also doing a song and you need it to sound organic, and somebody says, "Is this completely organic?" It could sound organic, but it's not necessarily. What are the rules in that? I know I've used virtual percussion that, and everything else is organic. Sounds like a band. Sounds like a real tambourine. But do you say, yeah, except for that tambourine, or is it something that's just not worried about? Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, I wouldn't overthink it. If it's it's for as far as like something sounding organic, that's all it has to do is sound organic. It doesn't, you don't need to feel ashamed of using a virtual instrument, which I'm first and foremost a bassist, so I'm always playing bass on my stuff. I play guitar, I play piano, but when I'm playing piano, I don't have time to mic up the piano, so I'm using virtual instruments all the time. And now you're hearing more and more incredible sounding symphonic music because the virtual symphonic orchestras have gotten they're just incredible now and very intuitive, and you can play with a lot more feel. So if we have the time, Steph and I just did a project where we actually had the time to go and hire some horn players and string players, which was a luxury. Absolutely go and do it if you have the time and resources. But in a pinch, when you have to get a job done, just use whatever resources you have available. And if so long as it sounds organic, that's all you need to worry about. You don't need to worry about the finer details.
Yeah, no one has ever once been like, did you use a virtual instrument? Or no one's asked that. I mean, it really comes, the only time you ever come even remotely close to that is, like Jason said, if you're doing something like orchestral and something sounds fake, and you can vet that the same way Mike was saying, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. If something's sticking out, if you're using especially like violin sounds or things like that, and they sound fake, and someone asks you for real strings, be careful about stuff like that. But on regular tracks and regular stuff for ads, never really comes up that way, And I think more to the briefs, if someone asks you for organic sounds, it's not that you can't create them with virtual instruments. It's just make sure that you can use guitar pads or piano or any of those things and create them, and they'll sound organic. It's more speaking to the type of music usually and the quality of it.
Yeah, we just want it to sound like it's human. There's a humanity to it and a warmth. I know it's only two people are answering, but organic is another way of saying that. We want there to feel like there's a human and not just some robot or bad violin synth behind it.
Love it. Great questions. Great answers. Okay. We're actually turning hand raising off. We're going to continue with the remaining people on the stage. And so with that, we're going to go to Jess.
I think Kate is in front of me.
Oh,
I just PTR'd and she's in front of me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just had the PTR. You're right,
No,
Jess.
you're
Thank
good.
you.
You're good. And I'm happy for her to ask her a question. Yeah.
Appreciate you, Jess. Hey, Kate.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Loud motorcycle passing by. So the question is for Mike. You had mentioned that you have your morning listening sessions where you sort of file the good stuff into your buckets by topic. And so if I have a few songs that might fit into those topic buckets, and they are represented by a licensing agent who has the proper insurance, what is the best way to get into those morning listening sessions?
Well, I mean, that's me going through my email blast, which those agents are probably sending me every morning. It's an email that's where Universal, Sony, all the majors, independents send me stuff, and then I'm going through, got a Pitchfork, you sort of CNN, and Aquarium Drunkard is my favorite blog of not usually sync stuff, my favorite stuff that I like to listen. But yeah, I'd say I'm going through all their blasts, and then it's going through, and then I drop in an old dinosaur iTunes and just listen all day. So I'd say your sync reps, again, know when to pitch it appropriately, put it on the right playlists, and how to send and format it the best. And if you have those keywords, they're going to file it and pitch it when appropriate to not just me, but all the supervisors and everyone on their blast. So it's the most bang for your buck is having those songs in the right hands. So sounds like you're doing it.
Awesome. All right, now you, Jess.
Cool. Thank you so much for the room, guys. This has been a lot of amazing questions. And as moderators, you're asking every question that we need answered in the audience. So you're doing an amazing job with asking your questions. My question is for Callie. Also, I'm kind of a huge fan of you after hearing your story. Definitely want to give you your flowers. I love what you said about having to record your own vocals to have a faster turnaround for projects. It isn't necessarily related to ad space, but what is your vocal training gear that you have in order to execute vocals that are good enough for you to process within your own studio to give to a producer?
Yeah, so I have a relatively simple setup at home, actually. I do have Pro Tools, which I know kind of scares some people. I know a lot of people prefer like Logic or stuff, but most of the guys I had seen track my vocals over the years use Pro Tools, so that's just kind of what I was used to. So I have Pro Tools, I have an Apollo Twin Duo interface. My mic is a Neumann TLM 103, which has been really great. I highly recommend that mic. That's a good one. And then I just have Yamaha HS8 monitors. I don't use those too often, honestly. I just use headphones and stuff when I track. And then in terms of like my vocals and everything, I tune everything in Melodyne, which is very helpful. I definitely recommend that. And then I'm a huge fan of Vocaline, y'all. Like, I wish they'd freaking sponsor me or something, because I tell everyone about Vocaline. I used to go in and align all my vocals by hand, like word for word, and it would take hours. And then I got Vocaline, and it has cut my whole vocal process time like in literally half. So highly recommend that plugin for aligning vocals and everything. But other than that, that's about it.
Callie, I'm gonna hit you offline, and we're gonna get to Vocaline because the person who taught me how to vocal produce, Dan Viafor from The Voice, taught me about Vocaline, and it's like my head exploded. And so we're gonna go get Vocaline. Like we're gonna get them to give you that sponsorship because you just gave them the best and biggest plug. And same thing for Melodyne. For anybody in this room, not just for advertising, if you're doing vocals, watch your auto tune. It's a real thing, and nobody wants to hear that hard kind of auto tune unless you're asking for T-Pain or unless you're asking for the effect. Nobody wants to hear your, bad tuning. And it is also really critical to be able to turn in, tuned, timed vocals. So it's a hard thing to learn, but it's a critical thing to learn. So keep at it. It's beg someone like Callie to teach you. I'm sure she'll, I just volunteered you, Callie. But find an ally, ask a lot of friends. Jason makes me a lot of videos on, timing and things like that. You can find friends who will help you out. And I have resources if anybody needs, you could DM me.
Yeah, +1 for vocal line. And if anybody doesn't know exactly what that is, it's like if you have a stack of vocals, it automatically lines up all your consonants and formats. So it's really, really, really helpful. But also it goes to what Steffi, what you were mentioning, what Mike said, is to making things sound human. And Melodyne, practice, 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 because you need to be able to make it sound. You can sound in pitch, but it needs to sound human. And like the other guy asked before, with virtual instruments, one thing I didn't mention, watch your quantizing, because if you're over quantizing everything and everything sounds robotic, your track's going to be a rock. Sometimes there's an application for that, but not always.
There's so many good gems in that. We clearly need to do another room where we just talk about like vocal production, music production, more technique stuff, because these are some awesome gems, and we don't go into that enough probably. What up, KZ?
Hi. So this question is more for MunnyCat, but anyone can chime in. MunnyCat, I've really enjoyed hearing your story. My fiance and I actually did the opposite, where like we started as like kind of a cover band duo thing, and then we switched into my fiance being a producer and me being an artist. But getting into sync kind of gave us the opportunity. I needed another moniker anyways, and he produces all my stuff. So I'm like, let's bring the duo back and do some songs under that. So the question, what is the creative process like for you guys? Are you still both doing your individual artist thing? Do you sit down and decide, which, artist name the song's going to go into? I know you don't do that for sync, but do you do that to kind of separate, not monikers, but artists?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a wonderful question. That's so cool that's sort of a overlapping or like complementary tale with you and your partner as well. That's so cool. We really wanting to as well make money as musicians.
Yeah.
It's a great reward to start having success with a project, and once we started having success as MunnyCat, our other projects still exist, but we're not cooking with them the way that we do with MunnyCat. So, we still have the times where Khalid will go into the other room and he'll just like write a Zeus song on the piano for like his rock band, or I'll still have my lyrics, and then we'll, even sometimes we'll repurpose some of my Kato 8 songs, my solo artist songs, and we'll turn them kind of into MunnyCat Productions so that they kind of live in both places. But really, we just have so much fun making MunnyCat songs together, and it's such a great time, and it's so rewarding emotionally and, career-wise. The fact that people care about it and they want to hear it, it's just so great that we that's definitely our main priority. It's like our baby.
And I think it's really cool to have a partner. I think everyone's kind of talking about like collaborators, right? It's a blessing like that we get to live together, right? But you can also have producers like Kali or other. I'm sure everyone on here collaborates with other people.
For sure.
The thing that's kind of fun about having another mind in the room is that like, if I'm driving, say I'm like actually like engineering, or I'm taking the lead on something, and I kind of hit a wall. Maybe it's been 45 minutes and I just stand up and Kate will just sit right back down where I was, and she'll have an idea. And so she'll be like, okay, no, let's do this snare and blah, blah, blah. So it is really good to have a working relationship and collaborator. We kind of encourage like every single person ever. I mean, really, even if you're like a brilliant solo artist, it's always good to have other heads and other ideas in the room. So yeah, whether you live with them or not, and we have other friends we like to write with and that kind of stuff. So yeah. Congratulations on having a partner that you get to live in the house with, because then you can kind of, actually, this is about like the Jason thing, the dog walking, writing. Brilliant, man. We do that
Yeah.
all the time. When you get stuck behind that computer, or you get even if you get stuck behind that keyboard or whatever, sometimes it's nice to just leave, and then you go like, okay, but like, what sounds good? So we'll put
Right.
the song on a phone. We'll walk around and we're like, okay, what organically comes up as a melody that we just like, or a lyric idea we just like? You got to get the hell away from that computer sometimes.
So many gems. This is awesome. All right, we got Quentin up next. What's going on, man?
Yeah, what's going on, Eric and everyone in the room? Great room as always. Ironically, KZ, who asked her question before me, asked the question I was really about to ask MoneyCat. I've seen you all in different on different panels, and you always seem so connected, even with the way you answer your questions together. I just was wondering about your process as far as writing together. But you've
Thanks,
actually
man.
answered the question, so but great stuff.
Thanks.
Oh, thanks, man. We'll see you around.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you,
You guys
Quentin.
are so stinking cute. I want to like hug the shit out of you.
You
Oh my
can.
gosh, we got our second vaccination. So as of tomorrow, we will be able to take you up on the hugs.
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh
that
my
is
absolutely.
god.
awesome.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
I'm 2 weeks away. I'll be there.
Yay! I'm so happy.
Okay, all right, three more people to go. Let's go to let me PTR, make sure I got the right order. And we've got Jennifer up next.
Hey everybody, thanks so much. Control Camp as usual. Um, and congratulations to Mike on your GMS award. That's so awesome. I have what I think is a really boring question, but hopefully other people will be wanting to know as well. Directed to probably Kelly, MoneyCat, or maybe Jason, from an artist perspective. Um, the my creative workflow is on point, but my admin workflow is a work in progress. So I wanted to ask you guys. I started out just doing super basic Word documents to spreadsheets and just, keeping it all on point and organized. And, from like, when you sign with an agency and, their contract is up in a year. So do you want to keep with them or not? That needs to be all kept in check. And then following up, pitching. There's so many balls in the air. Do you guys have a favorite contact or organizational program? I know a lot of people use Airtable. What's your favorite go-to like organizational program? And thank you so much.
That's a great question. My organizational skills come from Stephanie training me in organization,
Feeding.
and feeding it into me. I was spoiled early on in that I was, as I mentioned, working in house, and so the in house team would take care of all of those details. But as you know, you're running your own business, and I know Eric and Control Camp talks about this a lot. Finding that balance between the creative process and the administrative, the business side of things, and I guess I would say no. Figure out what you're willing to do and how much you want to do it, and if it's really eating into your creative time, if that's where you really want to be, then um, find a bookkeeper, a manager to help you if you can afford it. We use on our end. We've shifted over to Airtable. We use Google Sheets and Google Docs a lot and share things back and forth. Um, But Steph, I'll let you continue with that. You're the systems genius on
If
the
you
team.
want to, thank you. If you want a really good laugh, we've tried literally every program from Asana to all of them. And you know what works best for Jason and I? Reminders in iPhone. So of all the expensive shit we pay for, and we have an amazing manager, a whole management team. We have an admin, a full-time admin. We use all the things. Jason and I function best over the very free, very simple reminders. We share reminders in our phone. We give each other assignments. We write down things. And as we cancel tasks, that's it. And our manager now shares that with us. And we also use calendar. Google Calendar is a really big thing. Anytime we have briefs that come up, we put them in the calendar immediately. And then we put the due dates immediately. And we put when other things are due because we're managing a lot of team too. So That's my big recommendation. You don't have to spend a lot of money on organization. You can use Google Calendar, which is free, and Reminders, which is free. But I also live for Airtable. But I will say the only reason we can use Airtable is because we have a big tech guy on our team who built a rights management system for us and does all sorts of linking and custom forms and stuff like that. I could never do it on my own. So I'm a big fan of Google Sheets before you get to the Airtable land, unless you want to spend a lot of time nerding out over that stuff.
So many good answers. And when this is another thing we keep hearing again over and over. Actually, John Kleinbell and I talked about we need to have some of you people on the stage here. We need to just have a room one day that's geared to project management, task management, business administration, and how we organize our stuff. So we're looking forward to talking about that more. All right, down to the final two.
Or bug Raj, he's good at it.
Oh yeah,
That's what I would
for
do.
We got Greg. Greg is up next.
Hey, folks. I just wanted to say thank you so much for having this room. This is just incredible information for me. I've been building a catalog for a while, and I'm just taking baby steps, as they say. So I thank all of you for this. Now, I've been inspired primarily for Mike's food analogies a little bit earlier. I wanted to ask you, in terms of the difference, and Steph, maybe you could chime in on this as well, between the virtual instruments and these services such as Native Instruments, Sounds.com or Splice or Lander or any of those. Is it okay to use those? And the way I look at it in the food sense is like, if you were invited over for a meal and someone was using like brand name spices in the dish, and if it tastes good, you wouldn't really complain. But I don't know still what the protocol is for that kind of use in terms of the sound samples. If you're using those branded samples and such, is that a bad thing or good?
If they baked it, you should be frying it, basically, if that makes sense. Long and short of that is my gut feeling, and I come from the days of when loops started first coming out in Sony Acid and that sort of thing. Make them your own. Don't just grab something off Splice, and especially melodic content. Don't do it. Just don't do it. It's lazy, and everybody else has access to that stuff. Just twist it, make it your own. Shuffle the notes around, put a different effect on it. Just don't just grab something and use it straight off of any library.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Hey, wait, do people do that? I sorry, I'm down here in the audience, but people actually do that? You don't, to me, you mix it up or you hear it and then it inspires you, right? That's okay.
I'll tell you a very brief thing where we figured out people do this even in professional land. We rarely, if ever, and will never again after this, pitch songs that are not 100% ours in our catalog. We made one exception one time for a partner that we work with all the time who co-wrote a song with someone else for a vendor that we knew, and it was the NFL, actually. Atik's usually in the room. And we sent it over, and Brian over the NFL was like, yo, did you clear this Black Panther sample in here? And I was like, what? And I was mortified because I'm
Chill.
usually the queen of catching that shit. And I checked it out, and it turns out it wasn't actually a Black Panther sample, but I was like, it's got to be something from Splice. I'm sure no one on my team would ever use a sample. There's no fucking way. Let me get into it. Sure as shit, it was a Splice sample that is just so frequently used by producers. It was familiar, and it was used in one of the songs on Black Panther, and it was
Wow.
super familiar. So
Yeah.
you have to be really careful. And we would have not been in any legal trouble, but there was like egg on my face from that. You never want a supervisor as big as the NFL to come back to you and be like, yo, did you clear that sample? Especially when we're known
Wow.
for never doing that. So yeah, it's a real thing. You got to be super careful. If you're using something from Splice, with the exception of if you're trying to learn different, because we talk about that in this room too, a lot of people are learning to be producers. Just don't send that shit out. If you want to grab a loop and write to it or do that on your own time, fine. But if you're doing things for commercial purposes, and I don't mean commercial as an ad. I mean if you're going to sell it or make money or use it in the universe and give it to someone else on that behalf, you know, like Jason said, chop it, screw it, flip it, EQ it, change, you know, whatever you need to change and move
Change
on.
everything about it before you try to make money on it,
Use it
basically.
for inspiration. That's
Yeah,
what you can do.
inspiration. It's great for inspiration. I
Yeah.
use Apple loops sometimes if I'm stuck creatively and I can't think of I'm missing a texture, and I'll sift through some loops and something will spark some inspiration, or I'll hear something that I might not have been able to conjure on my own. Then I'll bring it in, and then sometimes I'll actually just try to recreate something similar, or I'll chop it up enough so that it's not recognizable. You
Like
can't
you
do
forget,
that.
like
Okay, well,
a week
hey,
later, Jason,
Shella,
you forget that
Shella,
was
hold on
from
one
one
second. Hold on one
song.
second,
Yeah.
because I know you still have a question, and we're about. I wanted to stop right at
Sorry, man.
10:15. So, did you have a question, Shella?
Oh, I think you guys have answered all that I needed and more.
Oh, okay,
So
cool,
I
cool,
feel like
cool.
I already answered it. I honestly didn't belong here, and so thank you for letting me stay here this long. You
How do
guys
you
are all
say?
pros. I came in really late,
Oh,
so
there's no
I'm
such
done.
thing as you don't belong here. We really appreciate you being here, and everybody's here learning
Oh,
and
Yella, you
thank
growing.
always
you.
belong here.
Aw, thanks. You
Yeah.
belong with. Yeah.
All right, so thank you so much. Cool. Well, this has been like this has really been this has been an amazing room. I love all the like every question was just spot on, and yeah, we went just a little bit over, but I said 10:15, and we're right about at that. So, um, this has just been so cool. Mike, MunnyCat, Oscar, Callie, Jason, y'all are all awesome, and we just thank you so much for just hanging in with us and spending the time and just sharing so freely and openly and just contributing to the audience, and like you guys didn't hold anything back, and we really appreciate that. I don't want to go on too much. We're going to shift into our after party for those who know, but first, Daraj, Steph, any going away, any parting words, any wrap up?
I just think this was one of my favorite rooms. I feel like I've said that before, but this one in particular dropped a lot of really amazing stuff that we've been trying to get answers to for a long time. Oscar, thank you for spending your first time on Clubhouse with us. Callie, it looks like this might have been your first room or, close to it. Thank you for joining us for your first room. I'm always recorded, so I have to be careful what I say. Even though I've cursed 1,000 times, it's always later in the night. But Oscar, you're not going to escape us. We're going to get you back for a longer night, especially on publishing. I feel like you got out a little easy tonight because we had a big stage, but we're going to get you. But
Oh, I
Mike,
loved it.
Mike, congratulations again on the GMS award. We're really appreciative to have this kind of knowledge in the room. And Money, Kat, Callie, Jason, amazing creative advice that we've gotten from all of you guys. I got nothing else, Raj. I think we go after party, and just everybody, so you have to be in the control camp to be able to come to the after party. So hit that little green house above Money Camp, between Money Camp and Eric, right above their head. Join control camp, and then you'll get an invite or a ping. We'll all ping people in to the room. We do not talk about music in that room. We just kind of get to know each other and talk about food, Mike. Actually, we talk about grilled cheese and all sorts of things that are not music. It's where we decompress after rooms like this. So we'll see you there. Good night, everybody.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
everybody.
guys.
Thanks, all.
Thank y'all.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
I did have one more thing I wanted to say before we close out.
Sorry, Daraj.
No, it's cool. It was
I'm new to the moderating thing,
no, the only thing that I wanted to say was
Had to get
we
that
out of here.
in.
Let's go to the after
I
party.
will see y'all next door. And if you're not able to make it, we appreciate you being here. Thank y'all so much.